Fun little fact for you guys, this is actually the second time that I've tried to record this video today, because the first time, apparently the gain on my mic was way too high, and as you can tell, the audio levels were a little bit loud. Hey guys, CDTVProductions here to finally bring you the 10 best rap albums of 2019 video. Just thought I'd share the pain with you guys of recording for 1 hour and then having to go back and do it all again. So yeah, welcome to the 10 best rap albums of 2019 video. With this one I went with the Joyner Lucas ADHD strategy of waiting till no one cares to drop it. It took me a while to listen to every rap album that I wanted to from 2019, as you can tell, but I finally did that and I'm here to share that list with you guys today. Not a lot of meme editing today, no cyberbullying rappers, just a nice wholesome discussion about some great rap music. And speaking of cyberbullying, not really the bullying part, just the cyber part, I want to thank today's video sponsor, Surfshark VPN, helping me stay paid despite the numerous copyright claims that I receive. Let's get a sponsor popper going to did that even go in the frame? That was weak. What the f— At this point, everyone knows what a VPN is. Those things that protect your privacy online and encrypt all internet traffic sent to and from your device, so that no one can see what you're doing online. I've been using Surfshark quite a lot myself recently for a couple of things. The first one being that I've really wanted to rewatch the US version of The Office recently, but it's not on UK Netflix. However, with Surfshark VPN, that's not a problem because all I have to do is click this button right here, or go to the servers and pick a US server and bang, access the US version of Netflix and rewatch the whole thing smoothly. No problems. It's also something I use whenever I'm using public Wi-Fi now to protect my information from data thieves, and just in general help me stay safe while online, while on the move. And one of the best things about Surfshark VPN is that you can use it from multiple different devices, an unlimited number of devices, with one single account. What's that I hear you say? That's pretty good? Well, to make it even better, you can get Surfshark for the most affordable price on the market by either going to the link in the description or searching surfshark.deals/CDTV and using the promo code CDTV for 83% off and a 1-month free trial of the service. That's pretty much all that needs to be said for it. Go click that link down in the description and get your access to the most affordable VPN out there. Huge thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. So, with all of that being said, let's just dive into these albums. This is CDTV Productions, and let's get into my personal list of the 10 best rap albums of 2019. It can be really tricky to pull off a really good compilation album like this one with so many artists featured across it. There's a lot of moving parts with the varying levels of skill and even the different styles that artists on the project can have. But with this album, the Dreamville camp managed to execute it so well. 35 different artists appear across the 18 tracks on Revenge of the Dreamers 3, and almost all of them do a pretty amazing job. Jid and Johnny Venus shine all over this project, delivering captivating verses on every track they touch.
Top of the morning and anybody who thought it was Betty by Jitty, I'm like a Jedi, mind tricks live inside of your head, I devilish red eyes, never been on a red eye, a Jedi be high forget. Roses is falling, the money is calling, I'm better forever and ever to you. Taking the buses, the chocolate, I'll send them, I'll ship them, I'll get them delivered to you.
Guapdad 4000 impressed too with his catchy hooks, and you've got DaBaby's standout verse on Under the Sun, which is posted on Twitter every single week with the caption, "Don't forget when DaBaby killed his verse on Under the Sun." Don't worry, we won't forget, bro. Someone else just posted this like last week. And I can't not mention the documentary Dreamville released focused on this project's creation. Seeing how hungry everyone was during the creative process and seeing some of the songs being made just added to my enjoyment of this project even further, especially the recording process for Wells Fargo. That was just great to watch.
Yeah, my girl, we about to rob a Wells Fargo. One more time.
Seeing so many artists and producers just come together for 10 days and constantly make music, then select the best cuts for an album, seems like something that really captures the collaborative spirit of rap music. There are some clear highlights on the track list, but overall it's a project that I enjoyed a lot, from track 1 all the way through to the emotional closer, Sacrifices. Like I said, it can be tough to pull off a compilation album with so many different artists and have it deliver consistent quality, but Dreamville did it with this one.
Let's start it over. I, Jehovah, come
When I first heard this album, it wasn't one that I considered as an album of the year contender. I thought it was good, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't hit me like that until a couple of months after it dropped. Denzel just goes too hard for me to not love an album from him that is essentially just back-to-back bangers. After releasing Taboo, not even a year earlier, it made sense for Denzel to go with a less complex approach for this one, freestyling the entire album, which is a good thing when the album actually turns out good. Like, I don't think that's something that should be praised in and of itself, freestyling an album, but when the album turns out good, then it's even more impressive. With Denzel still keeping a consistent theme throughout. Basically, what Denzel wanted to do with this album was represent different eras and styles of Miami hip-hop with all the different tracks on here. Make music inspired by the sounds that he grew up around. And it results in some hard-ass music. Zoo, it slaps. Ricky, slaps. Speedboat, Shake 88, and Wish, they all slap harder than DaBaby. And don't even get me started on PAT, the album closer, which is basically a representation of what the Miami hip-hop sound is now. Loud, booming 808s, rough shouted vocals, it's a brutal song. If you want a short but insanely energetic album that will just fly by and have you hyped up the whole time, Zoo is the perfect album for that.
She mistake my paddock for the sink. I was in Dallas at V-Live, honeycomb settings in the chain like a beehive.
If you told me a few months back that an album from Roddy Ricch would be making my best of the year list, I would have done my best Blueface impression and asked you to stop capping. That is to say, before this album, I personally felt like Roddy Ricch was a very mid artist overall. I don't say that to be disrespectful. Like, I didn't necessarily think he was forgettable, but he was literally just in the middle for me. A few bangers here and there, but nothing too special or unique. Then Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial happened, and made me feel like I've been sleeping so heavily on Roddy Ricch. 16 tracks was all that it took. This album didn't just improve my opinion of Roddy, it honestly made me a fan. I was hooked on this the second I heard the beat drop on the intro, and the odd but sort of unique flows Roddy threw into the song.
That bitch give me flooding my wrist is wet.
It's a small thing and sounds pretty simple, but it shows that Roddy has something creative to offer within the lane of rap that he's in. And this is something that continues throughout the whole album, with him constantly switching deliveries and adapting his flow perfectly to each beat in a way that keeps me engaged throughout it all. A great example of this is Perfect Time, where he switches his delivery style like 3 times on the hook alone.
Still ducking one time. I seen the light and I climbed in. Had to take him out, we ain't gon' dine in.
He never really lingers on one flow or one cadence for too long. He constantly keeps it moving forward. Add on to that his knack for putting a very memorable hook together on almost every song, and what you have on here is an album that is just straight bangers. And I can't finish talking about this album without mentioning War Baby. My god, that is the perfect closer to the album. Roddy's lyrics and voice give off such an emotional vibe, and it gets even more powerful when it closes out with the choir joining him in singing the hook.
Was hopping out in broad day. Serving fiends in the hallway. From Methazine to the morning.
Let me remind you that I used to think Roddy was average, so hearing something so beautiful from him on this album, on my first listen, it really surprised me. This is an album that shows Roddy Ricch's rapid improvement as an artist. He's still improving to this day. Every new feature he drops just sounds better than the last. And it really caught me off guard with how much I loved it.
Flashback, digital dash. He used to run with a gun and a mask. He used to take all your shit in his stash. Now he a good boy, used to be bad. Flashback, digital dash.
This was an album that had to grow on me with repeated listens. I'm actually pretty sure after the first time I listened to it, I wasn't even considering it for this list. A major reason for that being the fact that it was a pretty different project to I Was Very Bad, the first IDK project that I checked out, and the only one that I'd heard before I listened to Is He Real. I absolutely loved that one from the first listen. It was a project that sounded phenomenal and also provided a great concept, telling IDK's story and all the events that led him to be the person he is now, with the main focus being his relationship with his mother and her eventual passing. But then you compare that to Is He Real, a much more ambitious project that has a heavy conceptual focus on religion and the idea of questioning whether there is a God or not. And it's a bit of a shift, for sure.
They say seeing is believing. Well, I don't see angel nor demon. I demand explanation. The pastor says for what reason.
It is a more ambitious project, no question, in terms of its sound and its themes. But the more I listen to it, the more I pick up from it, the more small details I notice, and the more I love it. Because that was really my issue at first. Pretty much every track sounded amazing, and they all flow together beautifully with seamless transitions between almost every song. Genuinely, sometimes I didn't even notice that the next one had started playing. But the concept just didn't land fully with me on that first listen. However, like I said, I gave it many more chances, and the more I come back to it, the more I enjoy it. Like I said, when I first listened to this, it wasn't even on this list. Then it was number 10, then it was number 8, now it's number 7. IDK perfectly offers up his conflicted perspective on religion and how it shifted over time, with some particularly interesting observations coming on I Do Me, You Do You, and the album's outro, Julia. Combine this with the fact that the album still has bangers you could play at any time, such as 24, or the Pusha T and JID assisted Porno, and you have a great album that strongly continues IDK's artistic evolution. Honestly, the biggest issue I have with this project now is just one single bar. I'll give you a second to take that one in, really feel it. Apart from that, love this one.
I live it like I imagine. Word is mine, no asking. The word is mine, I'm stabbing out. Top down.
This album is pure, unadulterated, energetic fun. That's my summary for the whole album right there. The whole reason I was put onto this album was because of Revenge of the Dreamers 3, and how much I loved Johnny Venus's verses on there in particular. And I am so happy that that happened, because before, I struggled to get into EarthGang. I just kind of felt like their voices were a bit annoying on everything else that I'd heard them on before this. But when I actually gave them a chance and listened to Mirrorland, their voices were not an issue, like, at all. In fact, all their usually wild vocal deliveries did was enhance how fun and vibrant their songs come across. Just listen to Up or Proud of You and tell me those tracks don't make you want to move around instantly.
Now I've got you. Now get back on your feet like giraffe, elephant, kangaroo. Can't come through these promises unless you cool. She put the Energizer batteries in my back. I did lithium bomb. And stay on my feet just like Harriet Tubman. Tell me to feed them like Harriet Tubman.
From the minute this album starts, it feels like the music is sucking you into this whole different world. A world which sounds just like the album cover looks. Colourful, spirited, psychedelic, and pure wild entertainment. It definitely still has its darker moments like Swivel and This Side, which has one of the hardest drops I've ever heard in a rap song.
Oh, you wanna hop on this? Once upon a time in the motherfucking West, I woke up to the stress.
But those moments do fit into the album very well without taking away from the mostly fun vibe. They just add a couple more layers to the world that EarthGang is portraying in their music. Not every part of this world is going to be bright and sunny. But if you need an album to immediately lift your spirits up for the most part, Mirrorland will do that easily. You literally can't frown when listening to this album, it can't be done. And if you haven't heard EarthGang yet and need a good place to start with their music, I don't think there's any better place to start than with Mirrorland.
Wax on, wax off, stack up all your weight, yeah. Hands up, man up, stand up for your fate, yeah. Wax on, wax off.
This is another one of those albums that I probably wouldn't have liked a year or two ago. Like, if I listened to this then and heard the industrial, sort of noisy production on songs like GTFU or Jailbreak the Tesla, I would have checked out immediately.
Disenfranchised to me up in my white feet. Need not get into the money unlikely. Something cocky, the stiffness just couldn't stop me.
It's not like it's the noisiest or loudest production out there, but I was very closed off to that type of sound a couple years back. Fast forward to now, and those two tracks I just mentioned, they're a couple of my favourites from this album. Parker Corey, the producer in the trio of Injury Reserve, did such a great job with handling the bulk of the production throughout this whole album, giving it that experimental, sometimes harsh sound, while still making it relatively accessible. It's a hard sound to pull off, but he hits that middle ground pretty damn well. Over that production, you have the rappers of the trio, Richie with a T and Steppa J Groggs, who work with Corey's beats effortlessly. They're very matter-of-fact with their writing and say things exactly how they mean. There's not really much subtlety to what they say, but I think that's perfect for an album with the attitude that this one has. There's also some nice creative concepts throughout, one of my favourites being Rap Song Tutorial, which is literally what it sounds like.
Step 3. Add your melody. Step 5. Record your hook.
Yeah, new chores, got some bread in mind.
Step 6. Mix and add your hook.
New chores, got some bread in mind. I want the 2 doors, ain't no giving rise.
It's crazy because I actually think that's one of the hardest songs on the album, while basically being a skit. Not to mention, some of the features on here are incredible. The Rico Nasty verse on Jawbreaker and the Amine verse on Jailbreak the Tesla are honestly a couple of the best verses on the album. This self-titled album is a unique one, and one that's going to keep you guessing throughout the whole runtime where it's going to go next. I'd never listened to Injury Reserve before this, but now I'll definitely be keeping an eye out on what they do in the future.
You can be who you want to be, but rather be myself for real.
The album that took my twin, CDTV the G, 7 whole months to react to. Just a tad late there, dickhead. You never catch me being that late to a video that my audience wants to see. Fortunately though, we both did eventually hear and love this album. YBN Cordae is only 22 years old. This is his first studio album, and the fact that he delivered such a consistently great project makes those two things that I just mentioned pretty hard to believe. The Lost Boy does exactly what your first commercially released studio album should do, with very strong themes of finding yourself and family throughout the whole project. Hell, he even has a singing feature from his actual grandma on the Grandma's House skit.
Rise sometime,
Trouble in my way.
trouble in my way.
And I really appreciate that it's an album that has a warm and optimistic perspective on everything. Even when Cordae is talking about his lows, he's talking about how they led him to push for success, and how he's always looking for the better days ahead of him.
I done lost a couple brothers, dead cousins on the regular, but I ain't even stressing, count my blessings, know we headed up.
It's an album with great and consistent production, strong songwriting throughout the whole thing, and very well selected features. Cordae seemed to have so much chemistry with everyone that was on this, particularly Anderson .Paak on RMP and Pusha T on Nightmares Are Real. Their verses complement each other so well, and it's just another aspect that shows how well made this album is. The Lost Boy was an incredible start for YBN Cordae, making sure he came straight out the gate with a bang and showing people that he's here to stay.
You see our gold chains and our flashy cars. I see a lack of self-worth and I see battle scars. He has to be with 20 man when he wears jewellery.
If you've been a viewer of my channel for a while, you'll know that I'm still in the very early stages of diving into the UK rap scene. But based on the admittedly small amount of music that I've heard from that scene so far, I can confidently say that Psychodrama by Dave is the best album from a UK rapper that I've ever heard. Simply put, Dave is a masterful storyteller, and that ability is more evident than ever on this album. The best example of this is Leslie, an 11-minute song that basically details a woman losing her entire identity to an abusive relationship, and he keeps you listening closely to every heartbreaking word with his writing ability. There's a lot of layers to it, and it all flows together effortlessly. There's no rhymes or flows that feel forced for the sake of the narrative, and that's incredibly impressive when you're telling such a long and specific story. This man is a wordsmith basically, and that's evident on every track. There's the incredibly poetic Black, which is honestly one of the most moving and thought-provoking songs about race that I've heard.
Black is struggling to find your history or trace the shit. You don't know the truth about your race cause they're erasing it.
There's one of my personal favourites from the album, Environment, which covers how draining, dangerous and fake the world of music and fame can be for artists.
Long days and early flights. You see the deals and think all these rappers laughing now, but you don't get that if we weren't already, we're a target now.
That line honestly gave me chills when I first heard it because I listened to this album for the first time like last month, and this bar immediately reminded me of what happened to Pop Smoke, and it just shows how painfully relevant this track is to the music industry and how people take advantage of people within it today. There's so much I could talk about with this album. The fact it's tied together with this whole psychiatry session concept to smoothly transition between topics. The perfect balance between bangers with witty wordplay and deep storytelling songs. But it's best for you just to listen to the album and see for yourself. Dave is hands down the best lyricist and storyteller I've personally heard out of the the UK. And even if you're not hugely into UK rap, I could hugely recommend this project. It is absolutely worth your time.
The time flies when you spend your nights in the West End. I didn't know that snakes come in the form of a best friend. Who you faking for? You ready for your life?
I am a big fan of Rich Brian, and I liked his previous album Amen. It even made it to my best albums of 2018 list. But even with me liking his old stuff, The Sailor is such a massive step up in almost every aspect. And it's cemented for me that Rich Brian was the single most improved artist in 2019. My expectations were set really high for this from the moment I heard the first single from it, Yellow, where Brian displayed more emotional and strong vocals than he ever had before, while being backed by this incredibly cinematic production.
Please don't call the Ravens. I don't need no help. Bury me a legend. I'm a dig the game myself.
And when The Sailor finally dropped, it was everything that I hoped it would be. Brian was more personal, more introspective than he'd ever been before on here. There was a bigger variety of sounds. His singing and rapping vocals were improved, and the production was excellent from start to finish. There wasn't a single step backwards on here. Some of the greatest highlights for me are the celebratory track Kids, which contains some of Brian's most confident bars.
They said the fruit never gonna fall far from the tree. I used to be the kid, now the kids wanna be me.
The musical whirlwind that is Slow Down Turbo with its hard-hitting beat switches and constant flows.
If I just bought another mirror, hope I see somebody better. I don't wanna play no game, bitch. I'm on another level. See me at the bakery, I'm trying to get my fucking bread.
And Curious, where Brian spills his thoughts on recent events in his life with an introspective, stream of consciousness writing style.
I think I'm meant to be. Put a kid with a dream in a room full of books. He gon' read even though none of it's understood. Ay.
It really is an amazing project from start to finish, with every track standing out. The more Brian's career goes on, the more you can see him rapidly flesh himself out as an artist. And in 2019, it resulted in the best body of work that Brian has released, and one of my top albums from that year.
Yeah, I'm brushing you off, cause this Parker is calm. You're my favorite garçon, don't leave, stay right here.
This choice for my album of the year should come as no surprise. I've worn my Igor hoodie that I bought after hearing this album in multiple videos. I've got the poster in my room, the sticker on my laptop, and so far the only album merch I've bought is for albums that top my best of the year lists. It was the same thing last year with Denzel Curry's Taboo. All I'm saying is keep an eye out for which album I buy merch for next if you want spoilers for the 2020 best albums list. Anyways, back to Igor. This album to me really feels like Tyler's artistic culmination as a producer, a songmaker, and overall album crafter. I'd say this is the most concise, consistent, and well-structured album to drop in 2019, with every single track providing towards the narrative, which tells the story of this Igor character forming a relationship with another man, who himself is already in a relationship with a woman, but is hiding his true sexuality from everyone except Igor. Then we get the eventual crash of that relationship, and throughout he just covers all the emotions that can come with a love triangle like that. I think deals with the initial uncertain process of falling for someone. New Magic Wand deals with the intense jealousy that can arise in a love triangle like this. And then we have the last few tracks which deal with the inevitable demise of this relationship. Not only do Tyler's lyrics portray the emotions and feelings involved so well, but so does every single second of the production. Oh my god, the production is masterful on here. And the fact that Tyler put together every single part of it himself with absolutely zero co-production or additional producers is mind-blowing to me. On all the tracks it's phenomenal, but personal favourite instrumentals of mine are the cinematic synth-based Igor's theme, the insanely smooth Puppet, and the eerie sinister What's Good. If this was a full review rather than a top 10 video, I could spend like 30 minutes just diving into everything that I love about this album, fully going into the lyrics, the concept, the themes, just talking about everything that I love so much about it. It's a sensational album to me, and one that I'm always gonna remember. Igor is now a Grammy-winning rap album, and I think that's an accolade that this album 100% deserves. Tyler really is a rare, one-of-a-kind artist, and Igor is the strongest piece of proof to that statement yet. And my soldiers, that is why Igor by Tyler the Creator is my favourite rap album that is debatably a rap album. I would say it is because almost every song contains at least one rap verse of 2019. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. This is CDTV Productions, signing out.